winning the Super Bowl in Tampa, I bet that was surreal.
Oh, yeah, it was unreal. I remember just like looking and seeing a couple 100,000 people just lining the river and all the boats that were around us. And I was like, holy crap, we did it. We won.
These two major sport championship winning teams, electric times here in Tampa. Alrighty, TBD podcast. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a really special episode today. Super excited to talk to these guys. Garrett Gilkey and Ryan Jensen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Definitely. Thank you. Appreciate you guys having us.
Absolutely. You guys are one former, one current NFL player transitioned into business owners. Do you want to introduce yourselves first? And that's how we'll start it off.
Yeah, where do we start?
I mean, I think naming. I'll start. Fine. Yeah.
There we go.
Ryan Jensen, 11-year NFL player. Got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens in 2013 as a 6th-round draft pick 203. Played there for 5 years and then signed down here in Tampa in 2018 and been here ever since.
Awesome.
Garrett Gilkey, not an 11-year NFL vet. I was in the NFL for about 3 cups of coffee. So I was drafted by the Cleveland Browns the same year that Ryan was drafted by the Ravens, and
I got drafted before him.
He did. I went to the Senior Bowl and he didn't, and I went to the Combine and he didn't, and I'm more attractive than him.
Wow.
That's my introduction.
Level up. So where'd you guys meet? Did you meet at the Bucks or sounds like before?
Yeah, so we actually played against each other in college. He went to Chadron State. I went to CSU Pueblo. And that's kind of how our story began. We actually kind of like hated each other because we both played the same exact position in college, and we're always competing to be the best tackle in the conference and in the country at that Division II level. So we used to just absolutely hate each other. We'd see each other on the field and we'd just like stare at each other. You know, it doesn't help that we're both redheads, and so we're kind of the exact same person to an extent with our playability and our looks. So it's just this immediate kind of like, I don't like you just because of the way you look.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw a picture of Ryan. So I had gotten, I think the year before, I had gotten a first-team all-conference honors as like a freshman or a sophomore. And then the next year, I think we both got it, and I saw that the kid from Pueblo got it. And so I opened up a picture of him on his school website, and I saw that he was a redhead, and it immediately pissed me off because I was like, there can only be one giant, great redhead in this conference, and it's not this guy.
Yeah.
So 3 years then later of us hating each other, we finally met after Chadron unjustifiably lost in the third triple overtime in Pueblo, and we both knew that, like, I think it wasn't the last game of the year, but it was like the second or third to last game of the year.
Yeah, it was right about playoff time and all that. So our seasons were coming to an end essentially. Chadron didn't make the playoffs, we did, but
no, we did. We lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, that's right. We had 2 teams that year, which is very rare for the RMAC. But yeah, so we met after the game, exchanged numbers. Just kind of got to know each other a little bit because we're going through the same journey when it comes to coming from a Division II school, trying to make it in the NFL. And through that whole process, we became, pretty good friends. We were acquaintances at first, and then we, got to know each other a little bit better, and that relationship just kept building and building. And, it was one of those weird timing things.
How rare is it to go from a D2 school to the NFL? That's pretty tough, right?
Yeah, I mean it's not doesn't happen very often. I always joking around when we won the Super Bowl in 2020. We actually had 3. We had one Division III athlete who was Ali Marpet, who played left guard. I played center at Division II, and Alex Kappa, who was a Division II guy, and then he ended up getting hurt early in the playoffs. And Aaron Stinney, who was a D1 AA from JMU, was our starting guard. So our entire interior offensive line was all small school guys. So
wild.
When you think about it, it's kind of crazy. Normally, you have all the the big school guys that are playing at that level. So it's pretty rare for sure.
Is going to the NFL something you both had in your head when you were children? Like, is this something you always both wanted to do?
Kindergarten.
Really?
Yeah, I remember having an insatiable, unquenchable desire to play in the NFL that was instilled in me in kindergarten.
From a player that was your idol at the time, or where did it kind of come from?
From a friend who was like a little playmate buddy. We would just hang out after school. So he played football and I played soccer. And so I was always like envious of him because he had, he was playing football and I was, kicking a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Amazing. What about you?
Yeah, for me, I never thought I would. I was an undersized kid coming out of high school. I always wanted to be a chef and own my own restaurant. Growing up, I come home from baseball practice, I'm 10, 11, 12 years old and, summertime, nothing to do, so what do? You watch Price is Right, and then I would immediately go to the Food Channel.
Yeah.
And start watching like cooking shows and stuff like that. My brother, was always the better athlete growing up. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, full ride scholarship to any school he wanted to go to. He ended up going to Nebraska, got hurt a bunch, never could really elevate his career past that level. And me, when I graduated high school, I was 6'3", 6'4", 215 pounds. So I was just like a super, super late bloomer. So when, I had 2 scholarship offers to Colorado State Pueblo and Western State at the time, which is the same conference, and ended up going down to Pueblo and started as a true freshman and was 225 pounds playing tackle, just out there surviving. And, through, getting older and hitting a weight room, got up to about 310 my senior year. And
damn,
as they say, the rest is kind of history.
Wow. So going and playing professional football is something that almost developed for you as you got bigger, as you got better, as you progressed in the sport.
Yeah, 100%. It was, I remember coming my junior year of college, I was actually in we call it the pack house, just the field house where we'd watch film and stuff. And I was doing homework or acting like I was doing homework. And there was a scout that was actually looking at our quarterback, and the system went down. The playback system went down. So I went in there to help him. He's like, "Hey, are you 66?" I'm like, "Yeah, who's asking?" He goes, "Shut the door real quick." And at that time, they're like technically not allowed to talk to you as an underclassman. And he put me through a couple like random flexibility drills, and he just kind of told me, he's like, "Hey, like you keep playing the way you're playing." He goes, "You're gonna at minimum gonna get a camp tryout, opportunity." This is going into my junior year, and I'm like, "Okay, that's crazy." And so like at that point, that was like kind of my first kind of taste, like, hey, maybe like I am good enough to do this. And I remember going to my offensive line coach, and he's a no BS guy, kind of a old salty guy, kind of a a-hole a little bit. Love him to death though. But I was just like, hey, like, do you think I actually have an opportunity? I remember texting him this. I go, like, I need to know because going into my senior year, I had to make some changes. I wasn't going to work over the summer. And, that was going to be hard on my parents from a financial standpoint. So I needed to figure out some stuff how to take those next steps and make sure I was ready for that senior year to go put out my best stuff. And all I said is like, hey, I need an honest answer here. And he'd sent a couple guys to the NFL before. I was like, do I have a chance? And all he wrote back was yes. And from that point on, it was like full bore. Like one of my things, I love dirt bikes. And coming out of high school, I worked for my uncle as a roofer and spent all my money that I worked that summer on buying my own dirt bike outright. And I had that all through college. But one of those deals was so I didn't have to work that summer. But my parents were like, hey, you got to sell your bike. You got to sell your dirt bike you got to make this sacrifice so you don't have to work, so you can just focus on football. And, worst comes to worst, you don't make it, you go work your butt off again and go buy another dirt bike.
Right.
So it was one of those, at that time, it was a hard decision to make to get rid of something that I worked so hard to buy, to try to, hopefully fulfill a
without
dream.
really a guarantee either.
Exactly. So it was, that leap of faith. So yeah, that was kind of when I kind of knew like I had a chance.
And it all worked out.
Oh, for sure.
Amazing. And then what about you? You had always wanted to be in the NFL.
Well, super similar story. I grew up with 3 sisters. I grew up, with a mom who was an educator. I grew up not as an athlete. I grew up as, again, like a, skinny little redheaded kid with wide childbearing hips. And so when, and I have a crazy, you can look my stories up around my social challenges when I was in high school, but I wasn't athletic, had a heart surgery going into my freshman year of high school. Put me out of sports, put me in some really challenging social situations. And then ended up going to a private Christian high school where I played underneath Don Beebe, who played in the NFL for 11 years. And I got my butt kicked for the first year there, and then wanted to quit, and then had his brother come up to me after the last game that year, my sophomore year, and said, hey, like, you actually can contribute next year. You should keep trying. I was like, oh, okay. So I did. And then my senior year, I remember one time, I had a great senior year, it was an all conference. kid my senior year of high school. But one day I went up to my coach and I asked him if I was good enough to play college football, and he looked at me and he said no. So BB played in the NFL. The irony is, 2 weeks later he asked me if I went out and I got a site or school visit at Chadron, if I would stay out there. It was basically like he wasn't going to pick up the phone for anybody, and so I had, Huddle didn't exist at that time. Nothing existed. So my only option was to go 15 hours northwest to the northwest corner of Nebraska and go to Chadron State. And so I went out there and they gave me a $2,000 scholarship. And, ended up playing out there, and same thing. Like I probably put on 15, 20 pounds every year, and so I didn't go in as like when I played in the NFL, I was 6'7", 330, and so I think I went into college at 250 pounds. 245, 250, could barely get 225, like off the bench. It just like broke me in half. And then my senior year, I was benching 500 pounds, so I had a ton of physical growth. And similar story, I started, I remember always having this insatiable desire though to like play. I wanted at least the opportunity. If I got the opportunity, I would at least like try to take it. And so I was taking online classes my junior second semester. And so I went home and BB was training athletes at the time. So one of the things that was really unique about him that drew me into football when I was in high school was the fact that he would train like Robert Quinn and some of these other pro guys in their off seasons at our high school. So you're always like kind of like looking at the amazing competitive thing ahead of you, when you're in high school. And so I was like, oh, like he is a better trainer than we had a closet basically, as a gym in college. So like it wasn't a real gym at all, and so I went home and trained underneath two guys that ended up got like a couple shots to play in the NFL. So I trained with those guys my junior year, and we did their junior pro day at Northwestern. And I remember going there and just like standing on the sidelines, like just watching. And all of a sudden this giant, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, this giant Patriots scout was on the sideline, and he comes up to me, he's like, "You Garrett Gilkey?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why are you asking?" He's like, "I was going to come out to Shatter and have you do your junior pro day. Can you do it here?" And I'm like, "What?" So
right now.
So I went inside, put on a pair of cleats that I had never worn before, and went outside, and I just absolutely trashed a 40 and probably ran it in like 8 seconds. And then again, like the rest was very similar history. I had another situation where a Panther scout, then I had a conversation with him, and he just kind of like the light switched for me. And he's like, "Hey, if you want to play 3 out of 4 plays, you better dominate." And so that junior season had some more disruption. Had my head coach, who's coaching with Prime right now, is one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. He ended up leaving the school halfway through my junior year, and that that conversation, that experience, going my junior year off season, that playing year, and then that conversation with the Panthers just like accelerated everything. So I'm pretty sure that both Ryan and I had like every scout, every team come watch us practice.
Wow.
Our senior year. And so then I was drafted in the 7th round. And yeah, so that's.
And where did you get drafted to initially?
The Cleveland Browns. So the same conference as Ryan, playing with, so we couldn't get away. So we haven't been able to get away from each other. And then, yeah.
So you guys are playing against each other in college, then you're playing against each other in professional, and then you make it onto the Buccaneers together? Or how did that all end up?
So I came down here to Tampa. I came down here to Tampa, and that's when my plane crashed and burned. And then Ryan came down here to Tampa, and that's when it just took off and took off and took off. So like all this competition we've been living in, it's like Ryan won. I just like Ryan won, and I accept that.
Yeah, and winning the Super Bowl in Tampa, I bet that was surreal.
Oh, it was unreal.
And for someone who is in the NFL, that is like that people say like that's your Super Bowl, right? But I bet that was an unbelievable experience, winning it in your home stadium. I remember thinking, if Brady pulls this off and our team pulls this off, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Just that whole 20, with COVID and all that crud that was going on. It was just it was a strange year, man.
It was.
It was awesome, and it was a great experience. And for me, the whole winning the Super Bowl thing. When we won the game, I was like, oh, that was cool. Like it didn't really hit me.
Right.
We kind of like beat the brakes off them a little bit. And for me, it was when we were on the boat parade, and we're downtown, and got a couple brews in me, and it was funny because me and Tristan, we got our shirts off. Like it's hot, like an abnormally hot February day down here, and I remember just like looking around and seeing, a couple 100,000 people just lining the river and all the boats that were around us, and I was like, that was my moment where I was like, holy like crap, we did it, we won. And that was just a cool, like, surreal moment. Started crying a little bit, and I look at Tristan, and Tristan starts crying. It was definitely something very special for that, for the city and everything like that.
Plus the Lightning winning the cup. I mean,
It was,
and then
Tampa
COVID
Bay.
too. There was so much attention on the city with real estate development at that time too. I think a lot of people were paying attention to the growth and the new restaurants and the buildings everywhere and the cranes in the sky. Plus these two major sport championship winning teams back to back, like electric times here in Tampa for sure. So you guys are on the Bucks, you get reconnected, and then how does the real estate company kind of come up, and whose idea was it? Was it yours, Garrett, and then you kind of took off and asked Ryan later to join, or how did all that kind of transition?
Yeah, so I started the company about 7 years ago, and started it while I was still playing in the NFL. Sitting in the late Vincent Jackson's office, and just really found myself passionate about people, about real estate, about construction, and just decided to start a little company to do fix and flips. My background, my dad went to school for architecture, my sister went to school for interior design and architecture. As soon as I got hurt, I got my master's degree in engineering, started my MBA. Got my GC license, my plumbing license, so I got credentialed, and really just had a desire to just like work with guys and see beautiful things built. And so that's one of the things I think that for me was a primary passion, was just the lack. Florida doesn't have great architecture, nor does it have great like building science or quality, and so that was always a passion for me, coming from the Northwest or coming from the Midwest, is bringing craftsmanship, to Florida, bringing craftsmanship and true and pure architecture to, the Tampa area.
And really bringing it back too, because look at the old Tampa Bay Hotel, the building where UT's plant hall, right? Like that old hotel that was built in the late 1800s, that architecture is incredible. Look at the breakers in Palm Beach. Look at some of the old architecture that used to be here in Florida.
And agreed, and so I actually, we blew up. And so we blew up, and going back to your question, we blew up in Hyde Park, so I cut my teeth in Hyde Park, and the company blew up in Hyde Park as a design builder, and it was because we had the ability to do labor well. And so we had really, really great craftsmen who were able to do period specific historic architecture and historic details really well.
Yeah.
And so I started the company 6-7 years ago, and then and Ryan and I obviously have been best friends for over 10 years now. And so then Ryan walked into a really, really interesting real estate opportunity out in Colorado, and that's where things kind of picked up with us.
For sure. So, obviously Garrett being one of my best friends and a successful builder in here in town, I fell into this off-grid property, off the market opportunity to buy up to 600 acres with a house on it already. And for me, we always joke around like, I'm not the most intelligent guy in the world, but I'm not stupid. And when we had this conversation, he's like, you're not stupid because you'll find people around you who know what they're talking about and bring them on board and have them figure out,
Right.
Is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? And that's kind of a joke between us. So I call him. I'm like, hey, I need you to fly out to Colorado. I need you to come check out this property. I just want to make sure. I love the property. The house is a turd right now. But I want to remodel it and make it something special. So I flew him out, and he came out with one of our project managers and started going through it. And he's like, yeah, I think the quality is there for what you want to do with the property and the price point and everything like that. And it's like, all right, cool. So we ended up purchasing the land, and then I actually hired Garrett to be our designer and our architectural design firm. And we'd always kind of joked around through our friendship about starting a business together. And this was like our first opportunity where we're like, hey, let's see if we can do this nationally, and where we can do this in Colorado from a remote location. And we started that conversation, and it started being successful and started going. So now for us, becoming business partners, that was kind of my introduction into the company. And for me, I have no background in construction or design or anything like that. But once I started working with Garrett and the team on designing this property and designing like the step by step orientation that we use, I fell in love with that process.
Yeah.
So when he asked me like, hey, do you want to be business partners and help me expand this company? I was like, yeah, let's do it, because for me, it's a highly competitive thing. And for that transition period for me, I'm in my 11th year, I'm closer to the end than the beginning. So finding something for me to do after I'm done playing, like this was a great opportunity to not fall off that peak.
Right.
Because a lot of guys, when they get out of the NFL, at 29, 30 years old, 32 years old, you're at the top of the mountain. Like, you've made it. But what a lot of these guys don't realize is you got 50 more years.
I wanted to talk to you guys about that. You hear all the time about former players going broke, buying stupid shit. It seems like now with social media, there's a lot more information out there for starting a business or investing your money or whatever it is. When you were kind of ending your career and now that you understand, okay, I've been in here for 11 years, maybe I'm on my way out. Was starting a business or investing always in the back of your head day one at the NFL? Like, okay, I got to figure out a way to keep this going for myself and my family.
Yeah, I was crippled in fear around the 30 for 30 broke.
Yeah.
And so I was crippled there. And I also had a mom with 2 master's degrees who told me I wasn't going to play college football either. Said, you better get your degree, better get your degree, better get your degree. And so football was always a secondary, if not tertiary thing for me. And primary was like, okay, like how am I going to like use the relationships that I've been given to like get myself ahead relationally and educationally and whatever. And so I was always pretty sensitive to the need to like lay foundation in other places outside just like putting all my eggs in one basket. And so the moment I came down here to Tampa and I recognized that the political constraints of playing were very real. I leaned more into the community, got more involved in Tampa Bay, just like got more relationally connected here. And with the recognition that I needed to lay a foundation for something. And so I think a lot of guys struggle with that. It's something that like Ryan and I are super aligned in that most guys aren't. And it's like the challenges associated to your ego when it comes from like leaving one thing and stepping into the next. So a lot of guys will want to use their money like wisely and strategically to like create more wealth. But not everyone has the ability to like get off the horse of being an NFL player and like walk with the normal people in learning or growing or experiencing something.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things that most guys struggle with is the ability to like leave your jersey where your jersey was left and then like step into an environment where you kind of like humbly and meekly like become a student again.
I would imagine that's an extremely tough transition because it's such a high energy environment. There's so much attention. The stakes are high, the numbers are big, and then you leave and that world is over.
Well, you go from being a god to being a follower. You go from being a god to washing people's feet. You have to go from like, you go from like everyone worshiping and idolizing you to like, like for me, I was in my off seasons up in Ohio. For lunch, I was learning how to lay tile from like a tile installer, and so like how many guys in the NFL do that? Like not many.
Right.
How many people are willing to just like go hang out with like the crusty old, fat guys, and like let them teach you something about life?
Those guys know their shit.
They know their shit. But when you're a 22, 23, 24-year-old high testosterone, killer, it's like you're not going to listen to the 6-year-old little chubby white guy, but you have to. Like it's that orientation, it's that humility, it's that meekness, it's that like stepping off your throne and into a place of meekness and humility that I think creates the opportunity for guys to transition well as they kind of become students again, like of a new space.
Do you think that environment is changing? Like, are more guys kind of seeing the light, more players thinking about the future?
I think what happens is, and I've seen this with a lot of guys, is they'll go from type A transition to like right into a business investment, and then they get absolutely destroyed and burned. And then what they do then is that they learn the importance of actually being more present to the things that they've not historically had to be present to, which is just like the challenges of their life or the emotional challenges that lead actually to places of wisdom. And so the question then becomes is like, what does your own journey look like as it relates to taking responsibility for your life? And then how do you walk that process out in a way that leads to like more vocational opportunity?
Yeah, makes sense. And what's the vibe on the team like now? I mean, just as far as people transitioning out.
Yeah, I think, I know the Bucks, they do a really good job with our community relations and programs to help guys, set themselves up for the future. But yeah, like I think the mindset's changing with a lot of guys. You still have some of the guys that, they're out there they're making $800,000 a year and they're out there spending $600,000 to live. And, now you made all this money, but now you're still pinched against that wall of like, well, I don't have any money. I think a lot of guys, like Garrett mentioned, the 30 for 30 going broke. Like, I think that opened up a lot of guys' eyes coming in. And I know the NFL has done a better job of setting young guys up for better success when it comes to not going out and blowing all their money. Right. They set these programs, Rookie Academy. They teach you how to spend your money and save your money. And I know the NFLPA has done a really good job about setting up, just within the Players Association programs that will background check all of your financial advisors, certain investments, certain
That's awesome.
This and that, which is great, and it gives you that opportunity. But there's also those stubborn guys who just aren't willing to take 30 seconds to give them a call to make sure that they're making the right decision. So it's a lot of it as men, we have trust issues and like, oh, I can figure this out on my own. When there's opportunities for you to make a 30-second phone call to make sure you don't screw yourself over for the next 20 years.
Well, you guys probably have a ton of trust issues because as you're playing and making a good salary, you're probably getting investment opportunities coming to you all the time. Everyone's knocking on your door. Hey, man, put your money here, put your money there.
That's the basis of why, kind of bringing us full circle back to why we're here. And so what happened out of the relationship in Colorado unfolding was the recognition of our opportunity to expand the design build firm nationally. So we're a luxury high-end design builder who can do really amazing complex work. Well, that expansion nationally to Colorado, which happened in February this last year, made it further revealed that there's actually a deeper uniqueness of who we are, and that is our unique sports entertainment background in the design build real estate world that best positions us to uniquely shepherd and lead really, really vulnerable, unique people of high net worth and or sports and entertainment backgrounds.
Exactly.
And so, so my personal background, like in vocation was, I was a 20 some odd kid that was making, several $100,000 a year. And then I had a guy come quote me, this is in 2013, a bathroom half the size of this room. And he quoted me like 25 grand. I was like, no.
Yeah, because he knows who you are.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like absolutely not. And even today, and then I go to do my kitchen up in Ohio a couple years ago, and I'm like, hey, like I'm just gonna make this like kind of like just transparent. Like I'm a builder. Some would say I'm not a great one. Some might say I am. But like I'm a builder. I kind of know construction. I'm one or two things. If you could just be honest with me, I'd appreciate it. Well, he comes back and gives me a quote for $20,000 to install my cabinets in my kitchen. And I was like, okay, well, like clearly, like the messaging isn't getting across that like we're not really interested in being taken advantage of. So that was the basis of, again, our relationship that brought us out to Colorado. But then furthermore, what we're walking in now, we've just finished a massive rebranding process that we're getting ready to unfold here in the next couple of weeks. And we've been lined up and have been brought into some pretty interesting places of public speaking and advocacy in the real estate world. About 3 months ago, I was the keynote speaker along with Tim Tebow and Ryan Holiday at the Keller Williams Mega Summit down in Austin, Texas. This February, I'm closing out the National Home Builders Conference in Vegas, which is pretty awesome. And then
awesome.
A week prior to that, another massive Keller Williams, event. So we're starting to really live into the reality of kind of like who we are. We're these like super unique young builders who have the ability to be super disruptive in some pretty challenging markets.
Did that not come across your plate initially? I would imagine your first thought when you get out is like, I'm gonna build.
To run from the NFL. Was to run. Was absolutely to run.
With Colorado and building this home on the 600 acres and all these other relationships you've built, you're kind of leaning into that market.
Yeah, life's kind of brought me into that.
Yeah.
I ran from the thing that I feel like I'm called to be honest. So like, I think that's very common in like most people's lives that you figure out as you just get older in general, right? It's like we always kind of run from sometimes the calling of who we are. And so it was an amazing, so it's been a really interesting personal journey for me as because I've not pursued wealth. I don't want wealth. I don't want fame. Like I came from that world. I don't want more accolades. I don't want more authority. Like I don't want that. I want to live super simplistically. I want to live super modestly. And what continues to happen is just like more growth and more blessing and more growth and more blessing as we continue to be true to what we are. And that's these like advocates for super vulnerable people who want to do really vulnerable, amazing projects.
We've talked offline for a couple hours just about human relationships and the level of service you can provide and helping people. To me, talking to you seems like what you want to do. And helping these players try to figure out a path out, whether it's investing or building their personal home, using someone that understands them. I mean, that's a great way to help people that are kind of in your circle.
Oh yeah, and so we've done, I've had several ex-NFL guys work through HGC, which again is being rebranded, but several guys have come through an intern program through HGC. We're just finalizing a partnership with the NFL Players Association. We've worked with a lot of Navy SEALs that have come through transition as well. And then we work with 3 major ministries here in town: Timothy Initiative, A. Brown Ministries, and Created. Are 3 major ministries here in Tampa that are pretty heavily involved with HGC. And so, the basis of HG, our phrase, our taglines: building dreams, transforming lives. And so we really do live out of like that relational expression of
Right.
like, it's really about people, and so we get to do that like from a pyramid standpoint with all of those that we get to lead and shepherd and all these different ministries and the people within the organization. But then also as we look horizontally, or those who have more power and authority in our world have the ability to trust us too with like the leadership of their super interesting projects.
Yeah, man. I'm very big on that too, and we've talked about that before. Tyler can tell you, like, the people you choose to get in your organization is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you have the cheapest quote in your guys' business. You want good, honest people working for you. It sounds like you guys have put together an amazing team. I think you told me you have 50 plus employees.
We're probably closer to 40.
Yeah.
40-ish, and then we've got however many hundreds of subcontractors.
That's a big company, man.
So forth. Yeah.
I mean, you're smiling because it's probably a lot to manage.
I'm smiling because I think at like 31, that's when I lost touch of reality. So at 33, I'm just like, okay, I'm like flowing in the river, and like it's still working, and like everyone's getting along. That's good.
That's pretty damn hard for that many people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your current work. We talked a little bit about the Colorado project, but I want to kind of go back to the beginning of HGC, Hyde Park. Do you have any past projects we could pull up and see? You guys have done beautiful work. I'd love to show our viewers. That house is incredible. I think that one's in Tampa Heights.
Yeah, that one's in Tampa Heights. That's a beautiful modern craftsman. That home was designed to have a period-specific exterior architecture. And with a modern representation of materials and spaces. That was a little guest house for a client in Hyde Park.
Go to the kitchen right there, Tyler, the one that you're currently on. Yeah, this is the one he's talking about here. It's really beautiful design, kind of what we were talking about earlier, bringing that architecture and design back to our area. A lot of the spec builders here locally don't put time and appreciation into their build, and it really shows. You guys are a little bit different. Now you do custom, right? You're not doing speculative builds.
No, and so we have, I'm willing to entertain the conversation with an investor group or an investor who's interested in doing development. However, again, like when I first started the company, I had a few different perspectives that I think influence the way in which we've evolved. One being, in market transitions, I wanted to be able to maintain operations. So therefore I wanted to be in a higher end market to keep ourselves insulated as much as possible. I also wanted that so that I can hire the appropriate subcontractors, and I wasn't living in a tension vocationally with subcontractors that had no business doing projects that we were doing. Then the other thing too was like, I'm just like, if it doesn't look good and if it's not beautiful and if it hasn't been performed well and the building science isn't true and the quality isn't to standard, like I would rather go work at Crumble Cookie, and
Right.
I'd rather be a barista somewhere, because if we can't live in those 3 places while also honoring people and like touching lives, then like I'm not really interested in doing it. And so it's challenging because it just is we're not a margin-based builder. We're not a production builder, and we're just a super vulnerable, open, transparent, financially transparent, open builder who, at times can be expensive, but at times are also too like the most perfectly placed, builder for different interesting, folks in our community. But this is a really, really beautiful home that we did in Hyde Park. It's probably one of my more favorite homes. But yeah, really, really enjoy doing Hyde Park homes, historic preservation. I mean, it gives us the ability to really exercise, I think, some cool pieces, and one of them being the gifted talent that we have in the company, and the other being this like appreciation for materials and this appreciation for architectural purism, and also like I think just like creating pieces of art. I think that's really what I try to personally live in, is like the creation of experiences for people and the creation of like spaces to reflect unique pieces of art and be kind of spaces that transcend time and transcend different shifts of design and so forth.
And you haven't put a constraint on the company as far as a bottom line on profit. I mean, kind of what you're mentioning is you're more focused on quality of effort, architecture, art, a happy customer, good relationships, rather than, well, what does it cost the company versus what do we charge the customer?
Yeah.
What's our bottom line? What's our profit margin?
I should be better about caring about the happy customer.
Yeah.
Because not like customer is not always right. And I'll be the first person to say that, and so because I'm not living in codependent orientation, sometimes that can be a little bit of a sandpaper relationship. But we're very, very quick to remove profit, and so I'm very quick to limit sometimes the financial opportunity that we could have or cap the financial opportunity we have. And so that's the way in which I think we try to like lead those relationships. We recognize that our projects are going to be very expensive. Like it is not cheap to do an extremely intense or complicated, multi-million dollar 2-story addition on a historic, Hyde Park home. But what we can do is we can be extremely transparent about the process. We can be very thorough in our communication. We can, perform quality at the utmost standard. And so, but yeah, deeply, deeply, deeply care about, the projects we do and the clients that we serve. But it's hard. Remodels are relationally, they're extremely, extremely challenging.
Well, especially on historical
Oh
homes.
my gosh. And then every single project that has some sort of emotional connection to what's eventually being designed, you're going to have tension with the clients, and so you're always going to have tension. And so it is important for relationship. It is important for, us to over communicate and to walk people through the processes of what we do and how we do it. And so we try to live in a place where we serve our clients very, very well, but there's a very good, I think a healthy distinction in the conversation around like client isn't always right. Do they need to be served and honored in the best possible way? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to serve our clients and honor our clients and shepherd our clients. But a lot of times clients come to conversations with very, very skewed perspectives.
We had on the landlord of this building, Carlos Molnar. He owns Soul Design Studio. He's an architect, been around for a long time. What has he done? Didn't he do like American Social? All the Fresh Kitchen. He does restaurants and some stuff like that. But what he was saying about his customers is he brings them in throughout the entire process and continuously talks with them, right? So their ideas are just as good as the business owner, just as good as the architect. And all these ideas flow and then eventually trickle out into, whatever is the final product. And it sounds like you guys do the same thing, right? Kind of like you said, the customer's not always right.
We have boundaries, you know, and I think the more the more I got thrown into Hyde Park, the more experience I had in Hyde Park, the more I realized that boundaries are very, very good.
Yeah.
So we've created boundaries, with our clients, but no, I mean, we want to, one of the things that I share with people is that in order for us to most appropriately design and build for our clients, I have to psychologically, spiritually, emotionally understand your makeup. I want to extrapolate the way in which you live, and I want to extrapolate your lifestyle and understand where your lifestyle is rooted in chaos or disorganization or disorder, so that we can create order in the design that we want to put out for you. And so it is an extremely intimate, for me, it's an extremely intimate process. It's an extremely vulnerable process. It's an extremely emotional process. And so we welcome the challenges that come from that, but in that, good boundaries are appropriate while also like staying in a place of deep relational connection with our clients, I think is what allows us to walk that like overall kind of design build philosophy out.
Yeah, you're
So
not going
yes,
to be
like
able to.
including them, but also like doing life, sharing story, understanding perspective, hearing life, understanding trauma, understanding fears and anxieties, because all of those components of that conversation are what make up the reasons why clients live out of the places they live out of or have the needs that they have. So the more you can truly understand who someone is, from like an empathetic standpoint, the better then you can not only shepherd them and include them in the process, but create the space that is
Yeah,
going to best serve them, their family, and their
right.
community.
Yeah, I live in an older home on Davis Islands, and I was thinking this morning about this little sitting area kind of office we have, just thinking about the way I would use the space if I was designing the house is so much different than it's set up now. And if I had a custom built home, I would completely design that space so differently than what we're in now. So I understand the reason why you guys don't want to do spec homes, because you'd have to guess who the buyer would be. You'd have to play on a market versus working with a customer, learning about their lifestyle, and then building a home to fit that lifestyle. It's so much more of a curated
It's
experience.
curated. It's you have to live. I mean, you have to. It's the yin and yang. It's the inverse excellencies, right? I mean, it's the way down is the way up. It's it's the lion like lamb. It's the you got to know the crap in order to know the good. So you have to know the challenging circumstance in marital relationship to see what works and what doesn't work, so that those explosions or disruptions, hopefully in continued unity, can then create the opportunity for those things to be shared with the right person who can shepherd and lead that into what it needs to be. And so, yeah, I've got no interest in just like being a number, an Excel spreadsheet number moving person. I'd rather be this like intentional human who has the ability to use the totality of my background being in the NFL to really intentionally connect with people who are vulnerable, who want to do something special, but because of their experiences with life being similar to mine, they don't trust anyone. But if you're two giant redheaded tatted dudes who like also, had a living kind of cracking people in half,
Right.
and you can have this conversation and, and like the neurons connect, man, we could probably design and build some really cool shit.
I wish you guys would do spec though. The stuff around here is so bad, man.
Dude, it's insulting.
Yeah.
It's insulting,
And
you know?
I completely understand why that's a just different business model. But I would imagine you get some players that say, "Well, I already own a home. I want to invest in real estate." Like,
Yeah.
how about real estate investments? Are you guys taking a look at that as well?
So once we finish the rebranding process and we're getting ready to go public with that here in the next couple of weeks, we also have a fund that we've created, and we've got some investment opportunities for people to join and partner with us in as we continue to live in the moving forward. And so as the company's grown, the development opportunities continue to reveal themselves for us. And so while I live in this like, Frank Lloyd Wright architectural purism, which isn't necessarily like, like rational for the rest of us, we still have this amazing vehicle of a super gifted design build firm and construction management firm, and the capacity of everything that we have to do some pretty amazing development. And so
Oh yeah.
that's what we're continuing to take advantage of as we allow some pretty special relationships into that journey with us financially.
Well, think about a mixed use project with some of the detailed architecture and design you guys are talking about. I mean, imagine Armature Works is a good example, right? Like what they've created there out of an old historic structure. You guys could completely handle a project like that. And I would imagine you could quickly get investors and people interested to
Oh yeah.
execute.
It's really just about like, what do we want to do?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's the part too that allows us to stay grounded in this, because we don't like have to work,
of course.
and so we do this because we believe that there's a calling as men to vocation and to work and to shepherding the gifts that we've been given, and so we want to use our collective gifts to bless the people in our lives and bless our families through healthy boundaried relationships with vocation. And, but we 100% recognize the opportunity that's in front of us. And so it really is about us staying grounded and playing by some really good rules and waiting for those opportunities to come.
Roca is an incredible restaurant. So you guys did the build out on Roca.
We did the design and build out, and then I'm the smallest partner in this restaurant, but it's something I'm very, very proud of. So not only am I a very, very small partner in a Michelin star restaurant, I'm a design builder in a Michelin star restaurant, which we've not used or marketed at all. So that is the first time that's been said publicly.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
It is a gorgeous space too. Now, how involved were you guys in the actual design? Do you have an interior designer that you
We have a
on
staff.
board?
Yeah, we have a staff of interior designers. So my sister Hillary is an unbelievably gifted designer, and I was brought into this project after ownership led the design in a direction that didn't necessarily testify to a Michelin star experience, and so they brought us in to basically consult. And that's when my sister was working with HCC at the time. She's since then had a beautiful little girl. But her design vision for this space is I believe the catalyst to one of the reasons this restaurant's been so successful. So she is a super, super gifted designer, and we have a team of designers as well that worked on this and worked on the second phase of this. But my sister Hillary is primarily responsible for why this space is as beautiful as it is.
That's so true too. Like, such a big part of why a restaurant is awesome is the space it's in. There's of course like the hole in the wall that you go to and the food's amazing. There's something kind of cute and awesome about that.
Yeah.
But being in a restaurant that serves beautiful food, right? To have this incredible architecture around you and design, it only helps with the experience.
Oh, sound and lighting too. I mean, that's a whole nother hour-long conversation about the way in which sound and acoustics and lighting affect the space.
Well, let's talk about this transition and rebranding. So are you changing the name of the company, or let's
We
talk
are,
about it?
and I was told an hour and a half ago that I'm not willing to share what that name is. But we are rebranding to an extremely, extremely strong.
Well, when does this episode come out, Tyler? Because you guys might be releasing it. I don't know. Do you have a date?
I do not. January 8th.
So yeah, we won't reveal it on the show here today because I
Thanks,
think
Jimmy.
this will come out December 8th, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, stay tuned, people. So you're changing the name. You're doing a rebrand, and moving in a direction kind of like what we talked about. What else is associated with the rebrand?
So the other things that are associated with the rebrand are some of the other backdoor businesses that are not going to be made public, that are a function of basically who we are as a conglomerate. And then there's a series of other pretty impressive kind of public PR related opportunities that are going to be unfolding as well. So we've got some pretty cool PR that's
Very
coming around
cryptic,
it.
sir.
Very cryptic. So I can't say anything. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, I guess we'll
I'll
leave it
get
at that.
slapped. I'll get slapped if I do.
Yeah, Jimmy's
Jimmy
will
about
hurt
to
us.
drop the hammer on
Jimmy
you.
or Tony, who's not here, will yell at us.
Well, it sounds like you just need the right partner on the spec side. That's for me. I just want Tampa to have better architecture. We used to have these beautiful builds. It's really it's not just a Tampa thing. I say Tampa, I say Florida, really across the entire country. Look at the buildings that were built at the turn of the century, 1800s, early 1900s. Look at our city hall downtown, how beautiful that building is. And then you look at some of the stuff that's been built in the last 30, 40 years. It's so simplistic in the worst way.
Yeah, I mean, and it's tied obviously to capitalism, right? I mean, it's tied to capitalism and demand and the market constraints, right? So like we're in a labor shortage right now. What does that mean? That means that labor prices are going to be an all-time high. We're at a material and procurement crisis as well. That means the materials are going to be high. People also need homes, which means that we're going to keep building. So what does that mean? That means that those who are going to do in a way that tries to take advantage of margin.
Right.
So those who are doing are not those who do out of a creative expression. They're those who do out of greed or need. And so then it kind of, now there are people who can do it and do it with integrity. I mean, I think that whether you're talking about gentrification or you're talking about development, like you can do it with honor and grace and tact. Not many people do, but that's also the challenge of being just in a blue collar industry in markets that have constraints. If you're not an architectural purist, if you're not, expressive like this, if you can't live in some of this conversation, you're not going to give two shits.
Yeah.
About pure architecture, if you're just like developing, one thing after
If
another.
you're profit driven, it's going to be very difficult to get that design right. I think we're probably missing locally some deep pockets that could take it to the next level. I mean, you definitely have a couple projects like Armature Works is one of them. I mean, the level they took that building to is incredible. And you look at Oxford Exchange, that's a beautiful representation of an old historic structure. It's here, but it's not on this crazy level like in New York or Miami.
Yeah, it's not.
But you guys are a part of that change. I mean, you really are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm here to disrupt the industry as much as I can.
And you guys are like the level you take your projects to is beyond what many other people in your industry do.
Yeah, people wouldn't, and it goes back to like the three factors that a client's going to like consider: time, money, and quality.
Right.
So depending on like where you stand relative to those attachments, it's going to inform the way in which you're able to like build.
Ryan, have you fallen in love with real estate?
I mean, I have. It's been fun. Just the whole adventure of some of the stuff we're doing. We talked about the fund and starting to look and find projects where we can build this fund and then go and execute it. For me, that's like the competitive side of it, where it's like, strike when the iron's hot and find those hot irons and start hitting them. So that's been something that's been fun for me is, again, it's not even really about the money. A lot of it's about the chase. It's about that experience throughout that whole process to win.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's kind of about that winning factor and how do you win? And for me, that's kind of been the excitement around the last, 12, 18 months once we really started talking about, a bigger vision for what the company can be. And for me, that's been exciting.
Yeah.
Again, coming from the NFL, the tail end of the career, I need that drive and that excitement, that competitiveness. Like that's kind of what has really drawn me into what we're doing here. And when Garrett offered, to make me a partner in the business, and I'm like, I don't know. And I kind of was one toe in at first, and then I really fell in love with the competitiveness, the energy, the drive, what it takes to really take it to the next level. That's what's really attracted me to it. Not necessarily just the design build, but just that competitiveness.
Right.
The design build and stuff like that. That for me, that's just a bonus because as I'm building my home in Colorado right now, just like, we tore down an old structure and we're rebuilding it. Just like that, the phoenix rising from the ashes. Like,
oh my God.
It's just like that. It's cool to see something just completely destroyed. And then just seeing the beauty of the representation of like just what it is, like it coming back to life in a more beautiful and just
is exciting. That Colorado deal what really clicked it for you? Like going through the process of finding that property, the excitement of maybe what you could do with it, executing, buying it.
Yeah, I mean I remember. My wife can attest to this. I'm sitting in her chair in our current house in Colorado, and I'm got my financial advisor on one phone. I got the realtor who's selling this property off market, and we're negotiating and we're going at it, and he's wanting some ridiculous down payment that's non-refundable before we can even go in. And it was just like this. It was just like this whole competitive thing. And at the end of the day, I just put my foot down. I said, "This is my last offer. Take it or leave it." And there's some other stuff that went along with the whole, trying to get taken advantage of.
Oh yeah.
Garrett talked on because, the guy knew who I was, and he was trying to pull wool, and he wasn't disclosing certain information about the property that needed to be disclosed, for foreclosure and other legalities and stuff like that. So when I nailed the deal exactly where I wanted it at the start, and he was pushing it back and forth, and then I hit him like, no, this is what it's going to be, or you can leave, and he accepted terms. I was like, to me, I remember getting out of my chair and like yelling, and I was like, God, that was fun. That was so exciting, and that's kind of what drew me into kind of what we're doing now.
Yeah,
with the battle and the fight and the negotiation and all this, that gets me fired up.
There's such a competition aspect to real estate. When a property goes, well, you did it off market, so you might not have had other buyers ready on the sideline. Maybe not.
No,
in situation.
There wasn't really anybody on the sideline, but it was more of that
getting what you want at your terms,
getting what we want at our terms, but also not letting pride and everything get in the way of that. Like not wanting to walk away from a deal because it's not exactly what I wanted.
Right.
And walking away from an opportunity where, just by purchasing, this land, I was already in positive equity on the whole deal. Like it was a crazy learning experience for me. And I learned a lot. I brought Garrett in on those negotiations because there was just weird things for me that I had never done on my own with, non-refundable stuff. And like he sensed it, I'm emotionally attached to this already.
It's a little scary, dude. Non-refundable.
Yeah. So I brought him in from a non-biased opinion, and he read through all the BS right off the rip. And I remember just the whole experience of bringing him in and, shine this light. And you say, hey, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. And I was like, man, I wouldn't have caught that because I was so emotionally invested. And that's what we want to do within the company, with that relational side of our consumers, is to make sure they're not blinded by emotional decisions, where we can bring to light all those little, hey, this probably isn't going to work here because of this, all those little red flags that when you're emotionally invested in something that you might overlook. And that's something we want to do is with our consumers, with our customers, is bring them along in a fashion where it sheds the light on all those dangers within the process of what we're trying to accomplish. So it's, that was kind of like the big thing for me was, winning that and having him come along and help me do that. Now it's kind of
that's the dynamic.
That dynamic, that partnership of moving forward. So yeah, definitely this project, when we found it off market and started it, was kind of that energizing factor and why I wanted to become, a partner with Garrett and in the moving forward, help find cool deals like this
and help
cool
people.
opportunities and along the way, like our team motto is, bring people along and build their dreams and transform lives. Like that's what we're about. It's not about the almighty dollar. Our slogan, building dreams and transforming lives. From the outside in, that looks like, oh, we're just building dream homes and we're transforming these people's lives by building. But yes, that's true. But from a company standpoint too, what we're doing with all the ministries we work with and bringing these people along who may never have gotten a second chance. Like it's just awesome to see the people that we have within the company who have been in the pit, and we, they find this place of like rest almost with our company. We bring them along with them. We have guys who spent a long time in jail and in prison, and there's nothing really for them just because of society. Like when they get out and they find these ministries, and we've started working with these ministries, and we bring these guys back to life. We bring them back into what normal life is like once they get out of the system. And some of these guys, they leave after a while, but for us, it's the ability to give these guys these skills that they've lost out on for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long they've been incarcerated, or been addicted, or been in that pit. And we help them. We just don't pull them out of the pit, but we teach them how to build a ladder to help them get out.
Oh yeah.
And for us, that's the greatest satisfaction, is the ability to teach these guys how to reignite their life and get back to a normal life after bad decisions or bad circumstances. So that's on top of all the deal structure and all that fun stuff, but it's fun bringing all these people back.
Yeah.
And helping them, it's like I said about the Phoenix and rising from the ashes, like seeing these guys change by just a simple opportunity to become a laborer. But, we're teaching them labor skills, but we're also trying to bring them along and teach them life skills so they can go out into the community and be, good people and live a normal life. So that's
amazing.
That's some of the stuff that like I get excited about. I started getting all fired up. Like it's awesome watching these guys who have nothing, and we give them the ability to work and transition back into real life. It's just that's where like it feels good in the heart.
Right.
That's what we enjoy.
Yeah, there's the I want to win aspect, but then there's also that kind of I want to help people as well.
Yeah.
And you being helped by Garrett, Ryan, that's a big piece of it too, right? That education piece. Real estate is simple, right? But it's complicated in that you can get caught up in bad deals really quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So in a lot of ways, you guys are consultants to help purchase property, develop property like you guys are doing. If you had a player come to you and he says, I don't know anything about real estate, well, perfect. You guys can help with that, navigate, pull red flags, etc. That's a big piece of what we do with our customers too. We sell houses, right? We help mom and dad buy and sell houses. And the people, when they transact a house, it's always their biggest investment most of the time, right? They're selling their house. They've lived in it for a long time. It's usually the biggest number they've ever put out there. And a lot of people get nervous. You don't want to make a move when you're nervous or scared. You don't want to make an uneducated decision. So a big part of what we do is educate our customers along the way to make the right decisions. It's not our job as a broker to tell you what to do exactly. We can only guide you and help you make the best recommendation for whatever deal you're moving towards, whether you're going to buy a house and sell a house. And for you, Ryan, Garrett, I mean, you kind of did that for your friend. I mean, you were there and consulted with him on that contract, and sounds like you got a great deal.
Yeah.
Right? So now that business model is going to be extended to other people in your network, essentially, too. So it's not like, hey, Garrett, help me build a house. It's also like, here's my goal. I'm looking in Arizona and Colorado. Like, it sounds like people are going to come to you very early on versus like, hey, I own a lot, help me build a home. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that developed out of y'all's kind of first deal in Colorado. Is that light bulb just clicked? And
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, I never wanted something this big, like I was very, very content with like very little, and so I think when the expansion came, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is scary. Ryan, you sure you want to do this? This is super scary. I want to just be friends. Let's just like hang out and hunt and like be friends. And and then we just both decided to just like keep leaning into it and keep walking. And since, in the walking, we've had more amazing people, including family, come alongside us and support us as we just continue to walk forward. And that's what we're doing, and so what we're doing right now with our growth is vulnerable. It's scary for all of us, and so, but we're walking forward and we're just going to see what happens from it, knowing that, if we're going to take a swing, we might as well swing as hard as we can, and see how we lean into relationship further in the process, see what comes from it, and see how, it needs to be refined and then moving forward from it.
it's an ever-evolving business, right? An ever-changing idea.
It's a live creature that is not in my control, is not in Ryan's control. Hopefully it's in Jimmy's control. Jimmy, you have it in control?
I'm handling it now.
He's handling it.
Jamie's putting out fires over there for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys coming on, sharing your story. I think that your idea is amazing on its face. I mean, I've never been in professional sports, but as someone who's a fan and who saw that 30 for 30 documentary, I know it's a real issue with guys coming out. And if you could help with that transition, whether it's investing, whether it's building a beautiful home for someone, and extensions beyond that too. I mean, I had no idea you guys were hiring maybe people that, need a second chance in life. I mean, the fact that you guys are doing business the right way. You're not profit driven, you're people driven. I love that.
Yeah, life isn't, I think in our business, for me, it's and this was said yesterday, it's not about the amount of homes we build or even like the quality of the homes we build. Like, I love building beautiful things. I love designing amazing things. It's about the lives you touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, where can people follow along? We got the Instagram pulled up. You want to shout out the website and all the goodies, Garrett?
It's all going to change in the next couple of weeks, but I think just being tied to our Instagram here and then HGC Tampa, I think is one of the ways to stay connected in it. So stay connected to it, and then stay connected to our personal, Ryan and I's personal Instagram as you just kind of wait for some of the updates.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on. That was a great episode. Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Tyler.
you guys.
Jimmy.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
All righty. See you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
See you.
Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like it. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, give us a comment, give us some feedback. We want to know how we're doing. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.